What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the mealworm farm. Used to be a lot bigger. I've gone through a lot of hardships this year with the bugs. Just not climate controlled, had grain mite infestations. I used to have like 120 bins rolling at one time. I was making about 50 pounds a week or so of frass back in 2022. But as things kind of carried on and trying to expand and start new projects and actually started a nonprofit, became a founder. So I've kind of lost a lot of time with my bugs, and it shows because darn it, I'm really low on insects. But thankfully I'm about to explode again because a lot of these bugs are turning into pupas. And I've been doing this now since 2017 I started raising the bugs. So about 7 years now I've been raising them and experimenting and really getting to know them. And through that time, I really wanted to get away from grains because it's something that, supply, I always think about supply lines and enacting vertical integration methodologies so we can increase the bottom line of what we're doing with farming, because I'm a big believer in farming and farmers and helping farmers out, kind of like a public service. My business is a public service, but it's not. It's private enterprise of just K Organics. And I made my business really all about frass and utilizing insects. One in particular, the Molitor tenebrio, which is the darkling beetle, which everyone knows as mealworms. And the arthropods are such a crucial component of soil health. I have a poster here. I'm going to walk over and show you why. Matt Powers, awesome dude, really cool guy, has really put it together in a nice chart. You'll see here, we have the arthropods, right? And then we have the micro arthropods, and they really do feed the fungal networks in the soil. And a lot of nematodes consume the mycelium. It's kind of like a food source, so it keeps them alive. And so my whole journey has been really trying to boost the mycelial network anywhere to assist nutrient pathway delivery. Now, there is a caveat here, is that mycelium can also, because you got the endo and ectomycelio, and the endos can deliver pathogens. They can bypass a plant's exudates. Well, the exudates release the juices, and then mycelium works in tandem with that to feed on those sugars and to grow their networks too, and they share a symbiotic relationship. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, how can we boost those networks? How can we grow them? How can we connect a whole row of crops to communicate to one another? And that's through bug poop, frass. So going that way, I just saw a mouse. That's another thing, I have mice here. Sorry, I'm getting a little digressing here. But let me kind of put this down so I can chat. What I'm doing here is farming an insect for their excreta, poop, their crap, because there's a lot to do with chitin. It's one of the second most abundant polymers next to sucralose known to man. It's everywhere. And chitin is a huge building block for cellular walls. And plants really crave this stuff, and they really look forward to consuming it and building up their plant cell walls. It increases the photosynthetic rates. Frass has a plethora of bacteria and spore-forming fungi that works super well in the soil. And it's a little bit of slow release. It takes around 12 days or so to mineralize after it gets wet. And it's slow releases, and then you're left with, I think, like what, 37% carbon is the frass. So it's liable carbon, so it's going to feed that plant that cycle. It's going to feed the plant that growth stage and then be consumed in the leaves, boom, and then the plant dies and then it returns back into the ground. Hypothetically, if you're doing it the right way, where you're composting. So I digress again, but let's stay focused. I got to stay focused. There's just so much to talk about. I don't have any script, and I'm kind of just going off the cusp. But you'll see here, I've been feeding my insects grains since I kind of started. And once I discovered the Paulownia tree, it kind of changed a lot for me. I started researching it. I found out it's got a lot of protein in it. It's got a lot of natural glucose, about 24% sugar content in the leaves. So it's just got me started because I study a lot of Korean natural farming, and they teach you how to do low cost extraction methods, like with sugar. And you know, the sugar thing works, but I don't have a sugarcane farm and I don't have these things. But so it's going to take a little bit more research on how to get away from the sugar, because the sugar does preserve. And you'll see this Paulownia leaf extract. There's Paulownia Feed. I call it feed now because it's been saturated in sugar, and then I extracted the juices out of there, and they're sitting in a jar. And that can act as another fertilizer. You can run through a drip tape irrigation, heavy dilution rates, but you're delivering this homeopathic. You're applying it every time you water, because homeopathic delivery, to me, I think it's just like snake venom, right? People sometimes let themselves get bit by snakes and stung by bees in small quantities, because it helps with the immuno response, and it helps. It's an abiotic stressor, right? When you get stung, or when a plant is, experiencing drought, or they see things, and that's what chitin kind of does. It creates a hormonal response that tells the plant, like, we're under attack, but they're totally safe. So it's almost like an inoculum in a way, and it causes the plant to beef up. Really, I mean, you get like double or triple the growth rates when you start applying this stuff. And frass is a natural biopolymer. It comes from a bug. There's no chemical, there's no synthetic inputs needed to create it. And you can make a lot of it really quick. Just ask Midwest mealworms. I mean, that guy's producing tons and tons a month. And he's got so many worms. And he's telling me that it's hard for him to get rid of it. And that's just crazy to me, because I have so many usages for it, where we can add it to compost, we can liquefy it and spray it, and add it to carbon and lock that in and make it a really slow release fertilizer, where we can take farm waste, pyrolyze it, stabilize that carbon, and then throw in nutrients and biology, and it will all stay in the loop, right? This whole circular farming, I guess I can call it. So the Paulownia, world's fastest growing tree, right, on Earth, remediates the ground. It's a nitrogen fixating tree, and it's got an impressive phyllospheric microorganism, phyllospheric microbiome living on the leaf. A lot of cyanobacterias and very beneficial plant growth bacterias. So knowing that, it's just another tool in the arsenal of farmers to go totally sustainable. And I've been working to pioneer a little bit of that, because I honestly, I'm not to like toot my horn, but I don't see anyone doing this. So it makes me think I've been bestowed a gift, or the way I think, the way I see how things can be versus how they are. And it's always tough to be a trailblazer, because there's a lot of doubt out there, and people are really used to what they know what works. And quite honestly, like when they say what works, like, let's talk about the agrochemical companies, right? They're not all bad, don't get me wrong, but there's some big names in there, and they're selling some really toxic materials such as artazine or organophosphate. I mean, the list is very large. Those are just two I can think of off the top of my head. And if we could get those guys to start investing in alternatives, because I wouldn't care if, was it Corvera or Corvera? I don't even know, but it used to be Monsanto or whatever. You know, if they took hold of this stuff and they made trillions of dollars on it, you know, I wouldn't even be that big deal to me. I would just be really excited that we're actually shifting the paradigm, that we can create really low cost materials, and I would hope that they could return that cost of this low cost way of farming back to the farmer and make it affordable again. Because I know a lot of farmers that use salt fertilizers for 30 years, and you go to their farm and it's trashed. They don't survive drought. They can't handle the abiotic stressors. The roots are shallow. The fruits are small. There's like no nutrients inside it. It's very low density foods. And if you can create the same food with high density nutrients that just take the cake, you'll be able to sell your product at the same rate and retain your clients because they're looking for that specific fruit. Should we sell more because there's more nutrients in there? No, I just think we got to get back to the way food was produced before we started introducing really convenient methodologies. I mean, after World War I and World War II, it never ended because the war went to the fields, the farm fields, and tractors and all these things. And I'm not saying I'm against these things. I just say we have to think differently. We got to think about the future. We can't just think, oh, profit. I have to feed my children. Well, you know, we got to slow down. We just got to slow down as a species and take hold of what nature provides, because it's abundance. There's an abundance out there. There's no such thing as a lack. A lot of this is engineered lack. And the more you use those salty fertilizers, the more you use those chemicals, the synthetic chemicals, because everything's chemically based, don't get me wrong. But when we use synthetic chemicals and we're losing our soil biome, we just get more dependent. You can't farm without that. And that's an addiction, as far as I know. And I think if we can, I know personally that we can get off the teat. People like John Kempf have really been pushing the envelope when it comes to getting farmers off that chemical, because we have to earn it. Now these days, we have to show farmers, you're not going to lose your livelihood if you go and try an acre or two of our products. Of nature's products. This is what nature offers. We're offering nature's closest thing to bioavailability. We're not in a lab. I mean, my bugs produce frass through their anuses. It's not even an anus, it's probably called something else. But they do it on their own. I don't have to flip a switch. I don't have to, the only thing I have to do is take care of them. We're taking care of life because life supports life. And everyone says death and life are the same thing, but yeah, I mean, there's conversions. Things are converted over. Something die. It's like the mustard seed. Like, think about that one. That whole analogy about, you know, a seed must die and plant so it can sprout. So let's use more mustard seeds, the proverbial mustard seed, right?